Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Marcus Cole. I'm from a small town in Georgia, and if there's one thing life's taught me, it's this: the people who call you not enough are usually the ones who were never meant to stay. You think you're husband material? Please, she screamed, hurling my ring back at me like it burned her hand. You're a joke, Marcus. You'll always be broke, stuck in your little garage, dreaming while real men build empires. Her words cut through me like glass. And that was the day I snapped. You used me. I shouted, my voice shaking with fury, as she stood there in her $1,000 heels like I was some waiter who spilled wine. You slept in my bed, ate the food I worked for, wore the clothes I bought, and now what? I'm not husband material because I don't drive a Tesla? She scoffed. No, Marcus. You're not husband material because you still think love can pay bills. You fix junk cars and dream like you're Steve Jobs. Wake up. I'm done wasting my life on a fantasy with a broke boy who'll never make it past the county line. My hands clenched. I didn't hit her, I never would, but I did something worse. I looked at her. Really looked. And I saw what I'd been blind to for years: not a partner, not a lover, just a mirror for every insecurity I was trying to outgrow. You were never in this for love, I said coldly. You wanted a sponsor, not a husband. That's when she laughed. Laughed so hard it echoed off the metal walls of my tiny garage like a curse. I need a man, Marcus, not some charity case who thinks loyalty makes up for ambition. You'll die fixing other men's dreams while I live mine. She turned to leave. And I let her. Not because I didn't care. But because suddenly, for the first time, I realized she wasn't leaving me. She was setting me free. The day she walked out, she thought she was walking into a better life. She didn't even look back. And I didn't chase her. Though every piece of me wanted to collapse. I just stood there, next to the old Mustang I'd been restoring. And I made a promise. I wasn't going to become someone else. I was going to become the man I already was, the man she never believed in. And life? Life has a funny way of flipping the script when you stop begging for the wrong people to see your worth. Let me tell you what happened next. 2 years later, I was at an industry fundraiser, standing awkwardly by the cheese table, wondering why billionaires loved stale crackers, when I met her. Ava Blake. Not my type. Not a model. Not dressed like she walked off a red carpet. She wore Converse to a black tie event and laughed like she didn't need to impress anybody. We bumped into each other over the same glass of sparkling water. She apologized. I cracked a joke. She stayed. What started as a 10-minute chat turned into a 3-hour conversation on the rooftop under the stars. She didn't
ask me what I drove. She asked me what I loved. She didn't want to know my salary. She wanted to know my story. And when I told her about the garage, and how I was building my own brand now, Ava didn't laugh like my ex did. She smiled and said, "Sounds like you've got drive. Let's see where it takes us." I didn't know until the 4th date who her father was. Lawrence Blake, tech mogul, CEO, billionaire. It shocked me at first. I thought she was joking. Then I thought she was testing me. But she was just her. Unapologetically honest. Uninterested in titles. She told me she'd been raised to care about character, not credentials. And for the first time in my life, someone saw me not for where I came from, but for where I was going. 6 months later, I proposed. In the same garage where I'd once been called a joke. And she said yes, with tears in her eyes and grease on my hands. But life wasn't done with me yet. Because at the wedding rehearsal, guess who showed up? Yeah. Her. My ex dressed like she belonged on a magazine cover, clinging to some banker who looked like he'd never lifted a bag of groceries in his life. She froze when she saw me. I could almost see her calculating, trying to make sense of how the man she left in a garage was now holding hands with the heiress of a global empire. And I didn't say a word. Not until she pulled me aside and whispered, "Is this real? Or is this some sick revenge fantasy?" I looked her dead in the eyes and smiled. No revenge. Just reality. Turns out I was husband material. You were just looking for a paycheck, not a partner. You see, sometimes people leave you because they can't handle the weight of your potential. And that's okay. Let them. Because one day, they'll scroll through your life and wonder how you made it. And the truth is, you didn't make it to spite them. You made it because you stopped waiting for them to see your worth, and started believing in yourself. If you've ever been told you weren't enough, if someone ever looked you in the eyes and made you feel small, broken, or unworthy, this is your sign. Don't let them write your ending. Stand up. Start building. Because your story's not over, it's just getting interesting. If this story hit your heart, if you've ever been doubted, discarded, or disrespected, share this. Let someone else know, their worth is not up for debate. And if you're still in the garage, still grinding, keep going. Your breakthrough might just be one heartbreak away. The day she left, it wasn't raining, it wasn't dramatic. It was just quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that hums in your ears and sits in your chest like a brick. I remember her perfume was still in the air, that overpriced floral cloud she wore like armor. She walked out with her head high, dragging her pink suitcase across the concrete floor of my garage like it was a runway. And I just stood there, next to an engine I had been fixing for hours, frozen, like the spark inside me had died with her last insult. We had just fought. Hard. The kind of fight that peels back your soul, layer by layer, until all that's left is what you're afraid to admit. She told me I was wasting her time. Said I had potential but no execution. That dreaming wasn't a strategy and hope couldn't pay rent. You're like a puppy chasing cars, she said. Cute, but going nowhere. I think that was the moment it clicked. She never loved me for me. She loved the version of me she thought I could become. Richer. Sharper. Cleaner. Not me. Just a shinier version. I sat on my little fold-out stool after she left, and I stared at the Mustang I'd been rebuilding since college. It was half-finished, parts everywhere, the seat still gutted, like my heart. I remember looking at my grease-stained hands and wondering if they'd ever be enough for anyone. I worked 12-hour days at the shop, then came home to work on my own cars. I never went partying, never cheated, never lied. I showed up. I loved her the best way I knew how. But none of that mattered. Because I wasn't shiny. I wasn't husband material. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just sat there, letting the silence tear through me like a hurricane. You don't always cry when your heart breaks, sometimes you just go numb. Sometimes, you just feel heavy. Like your whole body's drowning but no one can see it. And in that stillness, I replayed everything. Every dinner I paid for with overtime cash. Every bouquet of flowers I picked up with the last $10 in my wallet. Every time I said sorry when I wasn't even wrong, just to keep the peace. And for what? That night, I couldn't sleep. I just laid on the old couch in my garage office, staring at the cracked ceiling tiles, listening to the hum of the fluorescent light. I was embarrassed. I didn't even want to tell my friends. I could already hear them, "She was never right for you, man." But it wasn't about them being right. It was about me feeling stupid. Like I let someone see my soul and they laughed at it. That's the kind of wound that doesn't bleed, it just burns. But somewhere around 3 a.m., something inside me shifted. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or the pain finally hitting its peak. I sat up, looked around at all the parts, tools, the worn-out manuals, and I whispered, "No more. No more begging to be chosen. No more letting someone else define my value. No more shrinking so someone else could feel tall." That was the moment I knew I wasn't just fixing cars anymore.
I was about to start fixing myself. I poured everything into my work after that. I opened a YouTube channel, Wrench Revival. Started filming simple fixes, budget car makeovers, restoration tutorials. Nothing fancy at first. Just raw, honest work. Some days I barely got 10 views. But I kept uploading. Kept showing up. Every single day. And slowly, people started watching. Then subscribing. Then sharing. 3 months in, one of my time-lapse videos of a junked-out Camaro restoration hit 1 million views. I cried like a baby that night. Not because of the views, but because for the first time in my life, strangers were appreciating the very thing I'd been mocked for. My passion. My persistence. My process. I reinvested everything I made back into my garage. Bought better tools. Hired one of the local kids from down the street who used to just hang around watching. Turned that little oil-stained corner shop into a business. People started driving from other towns just to get their cars done by Marcus. I didn't advertise. My work did the talking. And I didn't date. Not for a while. I wasn't broken anymore, but I was healing. And healing takes time. I wanted to love again, sure. But not from the same place I had before. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. I just wanted peace. Connection. Something real. And that's when Ava came along. Not in some movie-style meet-cute. It was awkward. We were both reaching for the last bottle of water at that fancy fundraising event. She laughed first. I apologized too much. She teased me. I got flustered. But somehow, it clicked. Her energy was just different. She was curious. Calm. Confident, but not in a way that made me feel small. She asked me what I did and actually listened. And when I told her about my channel, my garage, my story, she didn't look confused. She looked impressed. She said something that night I'll never forget. Anyone can inherit a fortune. But building something with your own hands? That's rare. That's power. And suddenly, all those nights on that couch, all that heartbreak and doubt, it didn't seem like failure anymore. It felt like foundation. The second I saw her sitting there, my ex, my heart didn't race. It stopped. Ava didn't know who she was. But I did. Oh, I did. That signature smirk. That wine glass in one hand, dagger in the other presence. She looked at me like this was her stage. Like she'd been waiting for this moment. And when Ava leaned in and whispered, "Do you two know each other?" all I could do was blink. She didn't know. She had no idea what kind of venom had just been let into the room. Yes, my ex said sweetly, before I could even open my mouth. Marcus and I used to date. A long time ago. Her voice was sugary, polite, the kind of fake that made your skin crawl. She extended her hand like we were old college friends. And Ava, being Ava, shook it politely. But I could feel her body stiffen. She wasn't stupid. She was just waiting to see how I'd handle it. And I was trying to figure that out myself. Lawrence Blake sat back in his chair like a man who had just placed a winning bet. Small world, huh? He said, sipping his scotch. When Denise told me she knew you, I thought, well, why not invite her? Let bygones be bygones. That's what family's about, right? Family? That word rang in my ears like a siren. Denise, my ex, was sitting at a private family brunch, 2 days before my wedding, introduced not just as a friend, but as a guest of honor. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a setup. Ava turned to me. You didn't mention you dated someone my father knows. Her tone wasn't angry yet. But it was sharp. Hurt laced with confusion. And I couldn't blame her. Because from the outside, it did look bad. I exhaled slowly. I didn't know they were connected. Denise and I broke up years ago. She vanished. I haven't seen her since the day she threw my ring back at me in the garage. Denise gasped like the victim she always played. You proposed? You never said that part, Lawrence. Lawrence raised an eyebrow. Interesting. So she turned you down. And now you want to marry my daughter? His words were lined with poison. And suddenly, I saw it. The whole game. He didn't want me to marry Ava. He couldn't stop her, but he could plant doubt. Could stage a reunion with the woman who hurt me most, frame it as fate, and see what crumbled. This wasn't brunch. It was war. And Denise? She was the missile. But I didn't flinch. Not this time. I'd been through fire already. And I wasn't about to let a spoiled puppet and her billionaire handler rewrite my story. This isn't some triangle, I said, calmly but firmly. This is your way of trying to break us. And if you thought bringing in the ghost of my past was going to scare me out of the future I chose, you've underestimated me. Again. Denise tried to speak, probably to twist the knife, but Ava stood up. I think we're done here, she said. Not to me. To her father. Whatever this was supposed to be, it's over. I'm marrying Marcus. And the more you try to play these games, the more I realize how different he is from the world I grew up in, and how lucky I am for that. She reached for my hand. I took it. And in that moment, I knew she was stronger than all of them combined. We walked out together. Past the marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, the empty faces with full bank accounts. And I didn't look back. Not at Denise. Not at Lawrence. Because for the first time since I met Ava, I realized I wasn't marrying into her world. I was redefining it. Not with money. With truth. With real love. With grit. But even after we got in the car, silence hung heavy between us. Ava stared out the window, jaw tight. And then finally, she said what I knew was coming. Do you still love her? My chest clenched. No, I said instantly. Not even a little. But that woman taught me what not to accept. She broke me in ways that helped me rebuild into someone you could love. She was a storm and you're the calm after it. There's no comparison. There never was. Ava didn't reply right away. But her hand found mine again. And that was her answer. The wedding was still 2 days away. But the biggest vows had already been made, not at an altar, but in that car. In that silence. In that war zone of legacy and ego and control. And I knew now, without a doubt, this marriage wasn't just about love. It was about freedom. From the past. From expectations. From the people who only love you when you're easy to control. And just when I thought the drama was over, an envelope arrived the next morning. No name. Just a card. Inside it? A photo. Of me and Denise. From 4 years ago. At our old apartment. On the back, written in perfect script. You sure you're ready to be a husband now? I stared at the photo in my hand like it was ticking. A weapon dressed as nostalgia. Me and Denise, arms wrapped around each other in our old apartment, a snapshot from a life I barely recognized. The back of it, that smug message scrawled in ink, you sure you're ready to be a husband now? I didn't show Ava at first. Not because I was hiding something, but because I was trying to process the venom. How far was she willing to go? Why now, just days before I said I do? The past few days had been a blur of wedding prep and emotional landmines. Ava's trust in me was holding strong, but even I could feel the cracks forming in the air around us. The envelope anonymous, but we both knew who sent it, was a final attempt to shake the foundation we'd built. I knew what Denise wanted: chaos. Confusion. One moment of doubt big enough to shatter Ava's certainty. And honestly, it almost worked. Not because I loved Denise, but because I hated what she still had power to affect. That night, I showed Ava the photo. I laid it on the counter, slid it across to her, and said, this is who I was. 4 years ago. She wants to drag me back there. Ava picked it up slowly, eyes narrowing as she scanned the image. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just asked, "Why now?" I sighed. Because she sees I've moved on. And she can't stand it. She lost control the day she left, and now she's trying to claw it back before I marry someone who actually believes in me. For a long moment, Ava didn't speak. She just stood there, staring at me like she was weighing everything. Then she said, "Then let's take that power away from her. Together." And just like that, she made a decision I'll never forget. She invited Denise to the rehearsal dinner. Not out of grace. Out of strategy. You don't kill a rumor by hiding. You kill it by shining a light so bright it burns, she said. And I'll be honest, I didn't know whether to be afraid or in awe. The night of the rehearsal dinner came like a slow building storm. Everyone was there: Ava's extended family, my small but loyal circle of friends, even a few press people her mother had discreetly invited. And then, she walked in. Dressed like she was the bride herself. White heels, long hair, a fake smile stretched wide. Denise made sure everyone saw her. She kissed cheeks. Hugged strangers. Pretended she belonged. And then she found me standing by the bar and said loud enough for nearby ears, "Funny seeing you again, fiancé." I didn't rise to it. Not yet. But Ava did. She walked right over, took my hand, and kissed my cheek like it was nothing. Then she turned to Denise and smiled. "You look comfortable for someone who wasn't invited until 48 hours ago." Denise tilted her head. "I came to support an old friend. And maybe see if he's still making the same mistakes." My jaw clenched. "This isn't about mistakes," I said. "This is about the one thing you never had. Love without leverage." And then she dropped the bomb. Right there, in front of everyone, with waiters still pouring wine and soft jazz playing, she said, "He proposed to me too, you know. Once. On one knee. Swore I was the one. Gave me a ring and everything." Her voice was syrupy. Her eyes never left Ava's. "And if I'd said yes, would we even be here today?" The room froze. You could feel the air being sucked out. A few guests whispered. Ava's mother gasped. And for 1 second, one breathless second, I saw it. The flicker of doubt in Ava's eyes. Not because she believed Denise, but because of how it sounded. The timing. The drama. The performance. So I stepped forward. Into the silence. And I told the truth. Yes. I proposed to her. Out of love. And desperation. And stupidity. I thought loyalty was enough. I thought struggle meant something. But she didn't say no because I wasn't good. She said no because I wasn't rich. Because I wasn't a status symbol. And when she left, she didn't just break my heart, she freed it. So yes, I'm grateful she said no. Because that pain led me here, to a woman who doesn't need me to be perfect. Just honest. Just real. Denise blinked. For once, speechless. Ava stepped beside me, placed her hand on my chest, and said to the entire room, "And that's why I'm marrying this man. Not because he's flawless, but because he fought to become the man he is today. With scars. With fire. With truth." Then she turned to Denise, voice like ice, "You had your chance. And you lost it. You don't get to rewrite the ending." The entire room broke into quiet applause. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was true. People feel truth when it hits. And Denise? She realized in that moment she didn't just lose me. She lost her power. Her game was over. And all she could do was walk out, heels clicking, ego crumbling, head high but hollow. Later that night, when the lights were off and the crowd was gone, Ava and I sat under the stars on the hood of my Mustang. The one I rebuilt when my life was falling apart. She leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "I don't need a man with millions. I need a man with integrity. I kissed her forehead and said, then you've got him. For life. But just as I was about to close my eyes and breathe for the first time in days, a new message lit up my phone. From Lawrence Blake. Let's talk before the wedding. Alone. I met him in his office again. Same dark wood desk. Same glass of aged scotch sitting untouched. But this time, there was no fake politeness. No smug welcome. Just Lawrence Blake, standing behind the desk like a man about to deliver a sentence. Sit, he said. I didn't. Let's not waste time, I replied. You called me here for something. Say it. He looked me up and down. Then finally spoke, I want to make you an offer. He slid an envelope across the table. Thick. Sealed. No label. Inside is a check, he said, large enough for you to walk away. No hard feelings. You don't marry Ava. You don't speak to her again. You just disappear. And you'll never have to work another day in your life. I didn't open it. I didn't even touch it. I just stared at the man who had tried everything else: intimidation, manipulation, sabotage, and was now waving money like it was some magic eraser. I'm not for sale, I said quietly. But he shook his head. You think this is about greed? It's not. It's about protection. My daughter doesn't understand what she's giving up. If she marries you, she walks away from my world. She chooses your life. One of grit and garages and online followers. She could have a king, and she's picking a dreamer. I finally sat. Not because I agreed, but because I was tired. Tired of being underestimated. Tired of defending something so real to people so hollow. I leaned forward. You think I'm taking her down. But she's the one who lifted me up. And I'd rather spend a lifetime building a real home with her in a one-bedroom apartment than live in a mansion paid for by silence and regret. He laughed. A dry, bitter sound. Noble words. Let's see if they still matter 10 years from now, when the shine fades and the bills come. I stood up. Looked him in the eyes. And said the one thing I knew would end it: I didn't fall in love with your fortune. And I'm not afraid of losing it. Because I never needed your approval, just her love. I left the envelope right there on the desk. Didn't even peek inside. And I walked out, head high. The weight of generations, titles, and judgment finally off my shoulders. Because for once, I wasn't chasing anything. I wasn't proving anything. I was just being who I was, and that was enough. The day of the wedding arrived like a storm breaking into sunlight. The sky was clear, the venue was perfect, and Ava, God, she was radiant. Not because of the dress, though it was beautiful. Not because of the flowers or the music or the crowd. But because she walked toward me with that same fearless calm that first drew me to her. Like she already knew how the world would react, and she didn't care. She chose me. In front of everyone. The ceremony started, simple and heartfelt. Vows were written, hands were held. But just before I was handed the mic, Ava looked at me and whispered, "Tell the truth. Your truth. Say what they never let you say." And I knew exactly what she meant. So I stood up, took the mic, looked at the crowd of glittering strangers and stunned family, and began. My name is Marcus Cole. I'm a mechanic. A builder. A man who once thought loyalty and effort were enough to be loved. And for a long time, I thought being broken meant being unworthy. But today, I'm standing next to a woman who showed me that love isn't about perfection. It's about choosing each other again and again, even when the world tells you not to. I'd been told I'm not husband material. That I wasn't rich enough. Polished enough. Powerful enough. But what I've learned is that real power isn't money. It's love that doesn't waver when things get hard. It's showing up when no one else will. It's building something with your hands, your heart, and your faith. Ava. I may not be the man your world expected. But I swear I'll be the man your soul deserves. The room was silent. For a moment. Then someone stood. Clapped. Then another. And another. Until the whole place was on their feet. Lawrence didn't clap. But he watched. And for the first time, he didn't look angry. He looked defeated. Or maybe humbled. Either way, I didn't need it. I wasn't looking for a pat on the back. I had the only approval that ever mattered, the woman now standing across from me, eyes full of tears, whispering, "Say it." "I do." And she said it back. We kissed. The crowd cheered. And somewhere, deep down, I knew. I didn't just marry the love of my life. I buried the man who once believed he wasn't enough. Because today, I became husband material.